Good morning. Welcome to Solve at MIT. Please welcome Hala Hanna, Executive Director, MIT Solve.
Hello. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Yay, the sun is out. It's the last day. It's wonderful to have you here. I wanted to start with an easy question. What makes us human? Is it love? Is it creativity? Consciousness? How can tech enhance us rather than replace us? And what makes us connect and engage and take action? How can tech bring us together, basically, rather than tear us apart? Because the consequences can be pretty dire. You know, when we say, move fast and break things, it's OK if it's your startup, server. Less OK if it's democracy. But the good news is we're active participants in what the future will look like. We can fight for the positive cases. And today's conversation is going to be all about that. How do we harness technology from social media a decade ago to generative AI today to create positive social change and build community? Our first conversation of the day is with Whitney Wolfe Herd. She's the founder and CEO of Bumble, and climate advocate Sophia Kiani. They'll be discussing how to design for positive, meaningful human connection in the age of algorithms.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be doing this today with Whitney, who is a hero and an incredible mentor for me. And so I'd love to start out first with, of course, you next year will mark a decade since you first launched Bumble in 2014. And love and connection are two things that most define what makes us human. And Bumble has expanded from love finding to friend finding. So how do you see technology's evolving role in building connection? And how do you mitigate the dangers of outsourcing love and friendship to the algorithm?
Yeah, so I can't believe it will be almost a decade. I think it's important to kind of go back in time a little bit to understand how we approached solving for what was broken in love. So, if you look back over the course of history, love has always operated a certain way. It is something that's actually been quite toxic. If you go back to even the prehistoric times, women were captured. And then you fast forward to medieval times, and there was lots of dowry. And there's just been this undercurrent of toxic love where women were essentially forgotten through the course of love. And then modern love didn't operate all that differently, right? Of course, there were some advances, but I grew up in the era of the rules where women were meant to be quiet. It meant a man liked you if he was mean to you. And so there was this toxic, abusive ecosystem around offline love. And then love went digital. And no one ever sat and changed any of the rules of love. But what also happened was there was this intersection of the toxic internet. So if you look at the way the internet was actually set up, there was no guardrails for how we treat each other or how we engineer a kinder ecosystem or an environment to be more polite. You drive down the road, you see signs that say, see something, say something. There's nothing like that on the internet, right? And it's just the wild, wild west. And so what happened at the explosion of online dating was all of the toxic, broken mechanics of love offline really intersected with the dangers of the internet online. So this was this moment to take a step back and say, what if there's a way to do this differently? What if we could actually use technology to be a force for positivity? It doesn't have to be toxic. It doesn't have to be the way it always was. And so Bumble was really about rewriting the rules, not just of love and not just of how women are treated, but of how we actually behave on the internet so that we can have healthier offline love. So I think it's a big responsibility of a lot of the folks out there with AI right now to not make the same mistake again. How do we actually think about women at the intersection of this next kind of digital wave? And so, I think this is where technology leaders have to step in and have guardrails and ground rules. We do not tolerate hate. We will ban someone if they're on the app, and we've taken it offline with legislation. We passed a law in several states now that actually makes sending an unsolicited lewd image illegal. So this has to be an effort beyond just technology as well. So moving to you, I have to just take a moment to say how remarkable this young woman is. I mean, the fact that she is 21 years old and on the stage here and also balancing school and being a young woman, I just am so impressed with you. And you set such an amazing example for all the young entrepreneurs and activists around the world. So thank you for being you. Gives me great hope for my children and everyone ahead. So Sophia, you started a nonprofit as a teenager after really witnessing the devastating effect that pollution was having on your parents' home country of Iran. And through Climate Cardinals, you're using technology to make climate education more accessible by translating this scientific literature into more languages. So 3 years in, which is remarkable, how do you see technology's role in really educating people about climate change, and how are you fighting disinformation? This is something that is such an issue about the climate crisis in your work.
Yeah, so it's so exciting for me because when Climate Cardinals first started, we were entirely youth-led, youth-run, and volunteer-oriented. So on the very first day we launched, we had over 1,000 young people sign up to volunteer with us with an average age of just 16. And together they were able to translate over 500,000 words of climate resources into over 100 languages. And a few months ago, we were very fortunate to create a partnership with Google, and we now are using their latest and greatest translation technology to basically automate our translation process at a very, very high efficacy rate. And so we've now been able to translate over 1 million words of climate resources with their help, which has been truly incredible. And it, in my opinion, also really showcases not just the power of technology to be used for good, but also the power of intergenerational cooperation of a private sector and a public sector, a private sector and a nonprofit coming together to actually come up with a solution that helps people. So in my mind, it was really like a win-win-win. And of course, being at Stanford, I just have seen how AI has become the new buzzword. And I know it's something that I've seen in all of my classes. And I'm really excited to continue to think about how can we leverage technology to further social impact. Of course, what we've done with Climate Cardinals is just the start, and we're really excited to continue to grow and expand this partnership with Google and to explore other ones. But for me also, I mean, my next step, as you know, is going to be starting a company with my best friend Phoebe at Stanford, and we similarly are really excited to explore how can we use technology to make it easier to shop sustainable fashion solutions. So I think for all young people, I really encourage to look at how can we leverage STEM, how can we leverage tech, AI, like this is what is going to be the future. And there are so many ways that we can integrate that with, honestly, the passion of young people to get things done, to make a difference, to make our results even greater.
I think that's incredible. And just to further that for a second, I was really blown away to hear the way you were talking about this generation of peers that are so passionate about climate change, yet they might still be shopping at, very toxic, places for the environment. So they're buying fast fashion because that's all they have access to maybe in their mind. And so I think this new company that you're starting is phenomenal in the sense that you actually make it tangible and easier, because when you think, how do I go buy sustainable clothing? This is a daunting question.
Yeah.
How do you even navigate that, right? You'd have to spend your whole day going around town. So I think that, making that easier will be an extension of what you've already done with your nonprofit in just educating. And I think that is where it all starts. And what about the misinformation piece? How do you combat that?
I completely agree with you, and I think actually it all harbors back to education. Climate Cardinals is an education nonprofit. We're trying to make it as accessible as possible for people to learn about climate change by translating into over 100 languages. And similarly with this new company, really what we're trying to make is create this movement for people to be more educated about the ills of fast fashion. Because of course, young people are also the most likely to say they care about climate change, but then they're also the most likely to go and shop from these fast fashion companies. And so it really is a matter of making sure that they feel empowered, that they understand really what impact their dollar is having, and how they can use it for good. And so in my opinion, like one of the biggest ways that we can fight climate misinformation is by putting quality educational resources out there in a way that is accessible and digestible for people. I'll give an example. The UN has an IPCC report. It's their report that basically summarizes the current state of the climate crisis. It's very long, very technical, very scientific, and it's typically only available in the 6 UN languages that account for less than half of the world's speaking population. And so what Climate Cardinals did for the most recent IPCC synthesis is we worked with a group of scientists and we actually created an executive summary of the IPCC synthesis, and then we translated that into over 20 languages, and then we used social media to disseminate it to hundreds of thousands of people.
Amazing.
And that to me is like the perfect example of the way that we fight the negativity of the internet is by putting more positivity out there.
I agree with that 100%.
And I think that's a perfect segue into talking about how harassment and bullying are real online and women take the brunt of it. I know for me, I have increasingly become more active on social media, and it honestly has come to the detriment of my mental health because abuse is so real. And so how do you engineer better behavior and better mental health outcomes on your app and others?
Well, I hate that that's happened to you. And candidly, that's what sparked Bumble for me. When I left Tinder, the internet, what it felt like was just attacking me. It was happening at 10 p.m., it was happening at 10 a.m., no matter where you were. And I had this moment where I said, wow, the youth is in crisis. Because bullying in my era was on the playground. But then you'd go home and you were safe for that time, right? And it didn't make it better, but the way we are just married to our phones at this point, and the comments, the playground is now 11 p.m. on your cell phone while you're laying in bed. I mean, it's devastating. And, you know, according to the U.S. Surgeon General, really actually on the 2nd was when it was posted of this month, we're in a crisis of loneliness. And a lot of that is the disconnection, the bullying, the abuse from the internet. So I think what we've set out to do, and this was the founding mission, was if toxicity can be viral, so can positivity, so can kindness, right? There's always the other side of that coin. And so I think there is a big responsibility on the big social media platforms, but what we're doing and what I'm proud of at Bumble is we are a very rare technology that's actually focused on connecting you. And that sounds counterintuitive because you're like, okay, all these connection tools, they're very disconnecting, right? Sitting on your phone in isolation and just watching people and having these, you know, kind of disconnected conversations, that's not true connection. That's not relationships. So we're in the quest of actually getting you to a real relationship through healthier engagement on the internet. And that means if you abuse, you're gone. You're off. If you harass or you use hate speech, you're out. And this is where AI gets to be very interesting for us. So we've already been leveraging AI for years to detect hate and to be predictive in a positive way as well. Like, this person is a great person. Let's elevate them to the top, right? Their behavior is great. And there's these triggers you can look for with these algorithms. And so I think we are not perfect, right? We have a long way to go. Technology is a tricky thing because you do one thing good, it leads to another bad thing. And, you know, it's a never-ending road, but we're dedicated to it. Like that, our tagline is kind connections. And so I think we need more technology platforms at scale. I'm not talking about, you know, the small, tiny startup out there that's trying to do good, and we need more of those because they become the big ones. But we also need leaders at the biggest platforms to take a more aggressive stance on behavior, because to your point, going on social media, the flip side of it is being abused, and we cannot allow that anymore. And I think, you know, this is why I get up in the morning, is to try and combat this. So on that point, last year, oh wait, did we go ahead? Sorry, let's see. I will hand it over to you.
Yes,
Sorry.
totally. No, you're so good. And I think to me, what you really represent is kind and compassionate leadership that shows why it's so important to have more women in leadership roles. Like the reason you've been able to make such a tremendous impact with Bumble is because you lead with true kindness and wanting to craft and put positivity onto the internet in a way that we really haven't seen with a lot of other leaders.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect segue also for this question that is really top of mind for me as well as I start this company, which is that last year women-founded startups raised just 1.9% of all VC funding.
That's
and
terrible.
Yeah, and less than 30 women founders have ever taken a company public, you of course being one of them. And so you've now created a fund to angel invest in other women, particularly women of color, and the lack of women representation in founding teams and leadership positions has deep repercussions on the tech industry's ability to drive social and environmental impact and positive change. So how do you think about these issues and where do you see this dynamic evolve in the years to come?
Yeah, so the stats are stark, right? And COVID has only, set us back further. I think it's two things. It's funding and it's education. So we have to prioritize, making sure that we open opportunities. And for me in particular, the battles I've been on just to get to where I am today felt impossible. But I was even more resourced than so many other women, right? I had come from Tinder, I had a network, I had connections, and it was even impossible for me. So I think we have to actively open doors and we have to actively advocate. So anyone that is in a role that has a voice, that has impact, when you get that DM from the young woman, you've got to, really take it to heart and consider opening a door. And so I think it is on the funders, of course, but we're not going to sit in here and talk about how the VCs should change. I think we all know the dynamics there. But I think it's also on people like myself, like you, to really spend that time to mentor, to spend that time to offer an introduction, right? We can't keep it all for ourselves. It's really about paying it forward. But I think it's absolutely a crisis, and it's something we have to really invest in, all of us actively. But I'm so proud of you, and I think it's also setting an example. What you're doing right now for young women out there is very inspiring. And so by setting the example, you show people that it's possible. And I think that's a great first step. So with that, I know we're out of time, but I'm so honored to have spent a few minutes with you on stage. And thank you, everyone, for listening to us.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
It's been so wonderful to participate in the SolveEd Youth Innovation Challenge this year as an ambassador, and the challenge called for innovative technology-enabled solutions to a wide range of issues that young people have identified and experienced in their communities. By January, the challenge had received 831 applications from 90 countries. And over the past few months, SolveEd reviewers and judges deliberated which 10 youth-led teams should be selected as this year's cohort of SolveEd innovators. The cohort includes solutions that make at-home therapy more accessible and affordable for youth with autism, improve sustainable food systems, a compact gray water treatment system, and more. I'm honored and delighted to announce these teams today. 7 of the team leads were able to join us, and you may have already met them during yesterday's Brain Trust. So please help me welcome to the stage our 2023 SolveEd innovators. So I think we are holding for applause, which happened, and a photo with the 7 team leads, which I don't know, where is the photographer? I think the photo is happening. Let's smile. Perfect. Okay. Congrats, guys. I think we go off.
Please welcome Mariama Kabia, Digital Equity Accelerator Lead, Social Impact at HP.
Hello, everyone. What an exciting time to be part of this dynamic community. My name is Mariama Kabia, and I'm the Digital Equity Accelerator Lead, Social Impact at HP. Yesterday, HP announced its prize funding for the SolveEd innovators. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of announcing a new prize, the HP Prize for Accelerating Digital Equity. At HP, we believe that digital equity will be achieved when everyone everywhere has equitable and inclusive access to services, to programs, knowledge, and services and opportunities in the digital economy. This includes a focus on access for women and girls. That's people with disabilities, including aging populations, as well as educators, practitioners, and of course, historically marginalized communities. Our huge audacious goal is to accelerate digital equity for 150 million people by 2030. This prize will provide up to $100,000 in prize funding for innovators in any of Solve's 2023 global challenges. This also includes Solve's existing portfolio of solver teams. Supporting these challenges aligns with our belief that digital equity, including digital literacy, hardware, connectivity, and quality relevant content, can help advance education, healthcare, and economic opportunity across the US and across the globe. We are so thrilled to continue our support and partnership with MIT Solve on this essential work. We look forward to getting to know all of you, getting to know your solutions, and addressing these critical challenges together. Thank you.
Please welcome Kami Dar, co-founder and CEO, Unity Networks, Adam Bly, founder and CEO, System, and moderator Amy Nordrum, executive editor, MIT Technology Review.
Hello. Hello, everyone. It is my honor to be here with you today at MIT Solve and to be speaking with Kami and Adam. If you are not familiar with their work, Kami here is co-founder and CEO of Unity Networks, which is a startup providing smartphones and a suite of important applications designed to run on low bandwidth networks to underserved countries and populations around the world. And Adam is founder and CEO of System, which is a platform trying to reinvent the way that we search for scientific research by collecting and linking it together in ways that he hopes will help researchers and physicians find what they need more quickly and provide more context to that information. So you're working in two very different spaces, but I think what links all of us here on stage together is the emphasis you've both had throughout your careers on the role of data in our society, thinking hard about that, how it can be used to either extract or empower individuals and communities, and of course, improving access to good information, which I know that you're both very passionate about. So we've got 20 minutes together today, and I will start by diving into my first question, which is, of all the problems that the two of you could take on in the world, why have you chosen your specific areas? And Kami, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, let me start by saying that this specific business was not my idea. Over the course of the past few days, there's been so much conversation about negative space, finding areas that need to be filled, and this specific space of service access, my entire career has been not in mobile, but in global development, USAID, and World Bank kinds of programs. And in this mobile space, what we have is an absence of focus on what is effectively the bottom 2 billion people on the planet. We have a 45%, 50% smartphone penetration globally, and everyone, most businesses, are focused on what is essentially called the next billion. How do we get the next billion people online, from telcos to Google, et cetera? when we solve the next billion, there are 2 billion people still forgotten. And so this idea of there's a huge problem, but also when you think about solutions, it's seeing solutions that are already existent. And I know Adam's journey as well is the right time, when technology catches up with your problem in a sense. And today, smartphone costs are going down. All of the costs that are involved in delivering high quality services is now. And it felt like the opportunity to take action.
Excellent. And Adam, why was this the problem that you decided to spend all your time and energy and focus on, organizing the world's scientific information?
Yeah, so I think the biggest issues we face in the world today are highly complex and interconnected, and I would argue becoming increasingly so. And we all experience that living through the pandemic, and so many people around the world are experiencing it firsthand with climate change. We experience it in social justice and systemic racism, in drug policy, in the state of democracy. We're seeing rising complexity in the systems that make up life on Earth, and it affects us individually and globally. And on the other hand, the way we organize the information and data we need to make decisions about those systems is anything but. It's highly siloed and highly fragmented, and it impairs our ability to make decisions in the most systemic, holistic, rational way. And I think this incongruity, rising complexity in the issues we face, and rising fragmentation and siloing in the information we need, that tension is existentially important to our ability to resolve the biggest issues of our time. And so I'm not a technologist, and I don't come to technology solutions as a bias. I'll sort of come to it because I believe that there is a kind of high leverage point potentially that we can try to make a change by innovating. And I see the opportunity right now, the need for reassembling the world's information based on systems as being something that can have far-reaching implications on any number of global issues. And so it's what I plan to dedicate the rest of my life to.
Wow, yeah, I like that thesis that good information leads to better decisions. I think it's a strong one. Okay, so Cami, one of my questions for you, we'll get to kind of talking about your specific solution in more detail, but as you look across the space, there's so many people trying to address these connectivity issues we see for the next billion or the final 2 billion that you're more focused on. What else are you seeing out there that is working? What are you seeing? Where are you seeing positive progress that you think we should all be more aware of or paying more attention to?
There's a lot, and I think we only have 15 minutes to get into it, but I think some examples are, connecting back to Adam's point here about knowledge, and is participation matters. On both sides of this knowledge economy, the knowledge producers and the knowledge consumers, if you have literally half the world's population who is excluded, their voice is excluded from the information systems that we're ingesting, we're creating large language models around. If those voices aren't included, what is the end result going to be, and who is that end result going to serve? I leaned into the negative. Let me talk about the positive. So some of the things that we're seeing are, there are groups. There's a new device that was launched, I think, a couple of months ago called OpenG, a device that understands spoken African languages and uses AI to interpret and analyze them. In the market that we're working in today in Ghana, across the service suite that we focused on, which is health, finance, education, and work, there's a tremendous amount of innovation happening. Digital pensions, microfinance institutions, a lot of digital service delivery that, the great solutions are always 5 to 10 years away. I think when I was in university, we talked about telemedicine as this thing that was,
right.
At our fingertips. How many people are using that today? Not many. And who needs it the most? These exact communities who don't have access to the devices and the data. So I am constantly discovering and inspired. Even today in the lobby here, I discovered services that could be of benefit to the communities that we're serving, that if they had access to device and data, they could solve meaningful problems that would help reduce price shocks, increase their wealth, increase their savings. So I think it's really across the spectrum. And one thing that I just want to briefly comment on is the end of the era of free money. The innovators, when you go and try to raise money now, you need real unit economic models. It's not just about user acquisition. And so our approach is also to serve those solution deliverers by helping them find their audience. If you're building a remote health practice, how do you get the users who will use that service in the next 2-3 years? we can be a pipeline for those kinds of solutions. So we're hoping to boost the solution providers, and I think they're really across the spectrum. And here, at MIT Solve, we see people in there from 16 to 25 providing the solutions for this generation. We hope to support them as well.
Yeah. Well, and since you brought up AI, Adam, I want to ask you, since your platform uses this, how do you see more power and potential for AI to help us, really solve a lot of gnarly societal problems? Or do you think it's more likely that as AI and this technology progresses, it will reinforce the world order we already have, with wealthy, powerful countries creating these tools and being the primary users and deployers of them?
So I think this question is among the most important we face in society right now. And we're at a critical moment in the state of this technology where I believe we have a responsibility, and we still have the choice, those of us who sort of have the privilege of living in democracies, to contribute to shaping governance of these technologies. We've been here before, right, where with recombinant DNA in the 1970s, a community of scientists kind of came together, recognizing that what could happen was beyond the current literacy and capacity of government to regulate, and the scientific community needed to self-regulate. And there's been some efforts of that within AI, and yet now we've reached the point where it's mission critical, I think, that we set in stone, we articulate some shared principles for the kind of world that we want to drive toward, and how AI can be supportive of that. I think one of the worst things that could happen right now is for AI to reinforce the biases, the inequalities, the lack of representation that pervades so many parts of the world. Instead, we have an opportunity to say, we have a larger vision for where society could go, and those things have been articulated, right? Whether it's in the Sustainable Development Agenda or human rights agendas, that's where we want to set North Stars, and we have this incredible opportunity now to use new technology to help us drive towards those objectives. And so I think it's not beyond our potential right now and our capacity as a society to point this and regulate this towards a North Star that is in the best interest of the most number of people on the planet. But it's really right now where, this is the critical moment where we have to do that. One of the things I've been working on for the last many years has been, how do we equip government with the advisory capacity, with the literacy to be able to anticipate these kinds of challenges? And as a brief anecdote, Congress in this country for a couple of decades had an advisory office, had an Office of Technology Assessment, and then in 1995 it was defunded. And so you think about it, for 20 years, the government of the United States, the legislative body of the United States, has lacked the scientific and technical advisory office to help it anticipate exactly where we are today, whether that was on GDPR or on AI, lacking. And so I think we also have to see this as a moment not only to resolve the issues of AI and put in place the frameworks and governance and culture that we want, but also to remind ourselves that this is the vector we're on as a society. And so it's critical that we provide government here and around the world with the advisory capacity, with the literacy that it needs to stay ahead of the kinds of issues that we're facing today.
Yeah.
I studied with Linda Garcia. He used to work in OTA.
Yeah, sounds familiar. Yeah, I mean, the explosion of interest in experimentation in generative AI in particular feels like it makes what you're saying even more urgent in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're at there's a general theme of emergence now, whether that's in generative AI or in the nature of rising complexity in the systems on Earth itself. We're seeing the effects of emergence just resulting from rising complexity in the systems on Earth, right? So the effects of climate change are causing emergence. We're seeing more nonlinearity and emergence. And that means that we're entering a space now where we have less control over the things that come about from these complex systems, whether those are deep learning systems or those are just climate systems. These are beyond our capacity in some respects to understand how they work. We try, but highly complex systems are not necessarily designed for us to understand them and to deconstruct them. And so I think it's even more important that we're living in the world of first principles. We're doing our best to understand these systems because that's the nature of where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, point taken. I don't think the world's going to get any simpler moving forward.
Certainly not.
So.
I want to jump in on
Yes.
the urgency thing because one of the things that stands out for us is that exponential curves are hard to catch up with, and the inequity that's baked in here is not entirely a bug. It's a feature of this colonial international system, and so the exclusion. The reason that it's urgent is because the productivity for those of us who have access to these kinds of tools is going like this. Large language models going like this, and if you're over here on your curve, and you start 1 month later, it's hard to catch up. If you start 10 years later, 15 years later, it's virtually impossible to catch up on that thing. And so the urgency is something that we feel, and this idea that there's so much to be gained across the marketplace, from governance and government through to user success. Everyone has an opportunity to really succeed a lot in an inclusive market space. And so the faster we get to it, the better.
Yeah. Well, and Kami, let's talk about your solution in particular, because I do want to stay grounded, in the challenges that are out there. And, you've developed something that you think is positive for the world and can do a lot of good. What are some of the main challenges that you're facing as a designer, a developer, an entrepreneur, and, getting this solution out there? Is it, fundraising? Is it deployment? What's kind of the hardest nut to crack for you?
Well, it'll come as a little secret that it's not a great moment for fundraising. But, if you have the right solution, we feel convinced that you actually can raise the money and grow the business. The main thing is, when technology and people connect is really where the biggest pain points are. We're doing something that is fundamentally about behavior change. Taking communities who are used to getting some service, not usually very high quality service. The community that we're working in, there's 1 credit union, 0 hospitals, 0 schools. So not great quality service, and we're trying to introduce digital versions of those. And so there's a lot of sort of empathetic listening that you have to do that, particularly challenging during the pandemic to not be on the ground in those places to do this kind of work. But it's really the listening and capturing the right data, treating that data with the appropriate sensitivity, and making sure that it stays private, that it stays in service of the user needs and not in the service of some other thing that's happening. But we're really encouraged by what we've seen, and I'll give to ground it, which is one very brief anecdote. One of our partners is a pension provider, so digital access to a pension program. We're working with cocoa farmers in Ghana. When I mentioned to the CEO of that company that we were planning to drive 30% and above adoption of the pension program, he laughed and said, Kami, if you can get 2.5%, we will be happy. That will be a good conversion rate. We had 25% of the community that we started with signing up for pensions, with half of those people putting money regularly into their pension program. And so this idea that you can actually have a reduction of price shocks over time by doing something today, taking action today, is exactly the kind of positive feedback loop that we think we can build on.
Yeah. Well, as an entrepreneur, your solution is so grounded in these individual communities and the users themselves. How do you take your cues from them about what they need or what they're doing that's working for them? How do you establish that connection and feedback process for yourself and your team?
So in one sense, it's not directly our problem. The services that we're leveraging are already local services. So this pension program has 500,000 pension subscribers in Ghana before we ever got there. What we're doing is we're building a bridge between those services and the users. So the common thread is lower the barriers to access, whether those be financial or experiential, make sure that that service is accessible. So everything in our service suite today in Ghana is, well, with one exception, we have 2 Kenyan education services, but all the other services are fundamentally local. So all of that, and this is another important observation. If you're doing well-intentioned human-centered design and you're ignoring 50% of the people, of the humans in that process, you're not coming out with a product that serves the needs of this broader community. So Our core function is connecting it with services that are already localized, and our tech is designed that if we were to go to other regions in Ghana or to neighboring countries, that we can deploy similarly localized services within our own super app.
Great. Okay, we're already almost out of time, but I do have one final question for each of you, which is, we have many entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs in the room. You're both entrepreneurs yourselves, so sometimes many times over. What advice would you have for the entrepreneurs in the room who are, starting a company or starting an initiative at this particular, complex moment of technology and its role in society? So, Adam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an incredibly important moment to shape technology companies in particular. I'll focus on technology companies that are built with a set of values and principles and concern for the consequences of the technology they ship in the world in the DNA of the company. And the way we've done that is by structuring System as a public benefit corporation and encoding in the charter of the company from the very beginning certain commitments to open access and open knowledge, commitments to the nature of our team, to the diversity and inclusion of our team, to how we're going to use profits down the road and distribute them prior to investors accessing the company and being part of the company. And I think it's an incredibly important moment for founders who care about what it is that they're putting out in the world and the implications that it may have, especially the unintended consequences, to, from the very beginning now, present to the investor community a new generation of entrepreneurs who are going to make these things principles of the businesses that they want to create. And so I think there's an opportunity now to declare those things, to actually encode those things in the charters of these companies. So I would only emphasize that there are ways of doing this today, to both access millions of dollars of capital as we have, while also encoding these values that you hold dear within the charter of the company.
And Cami, the final word.
I'll build on that a little bit. I think that my favorite SDG in a sense is SDG 17, the power of partnerships. And there's this sense that and this idea that information is siloed, yes, but also institutions are siloed. They have their own commitments. They have their own shareholders they're committing to. I think if you're an entrepreneur today, look around and see where are the opportunities, where are the adjacent problem solvers who can reinforce the work that you're doing, and making sure that we are not reinventing the wheel. There's so much work to be done. Finding the right partners and building those shared values, I think, is a really critical starting off point for that journey.
I'll also just say simply that any founder who has been through the founder journey is almost, I think, obligated and will be inclined to answer the call of any other founder. So I would only encourage founders to reach out to founders. I certainly am always happy to do that. But know that founders understand the pain and the horror and the challenges of being a founder uniquely, and the loneliness and all of it. So just reach out to other founders.
Yeah, thank you both so much. I think that was great advice. I hope you all have a greater sense of urgency and feel more inspired than you did 20 minutes ago. I know I do. So thanks so much for your time. Great to be with all of you today.
Please welcome Songmei Kim, Professor of Mechanical Engineering, MIT, and Director, Biomimetic Robotics Laboratory.
All right, thank you so much. I'm so glad to have this opportunity to share what I've been thinking about last 5-6 years. I'm teaching robotics at MIT and also running research. Ignore the topic, the title. Title doesn't mean anything to you at this point. Hopefully, after my talk, might mean something to you. So let's jump into it. I don't want to take too much time to talk about how much IT technology changes us, our kids, it's changing our how brain wiring and so on. But if you think about, just pause a moment, all these AI technologies stuck in this text, image, sound space, which is virtual. Think about all these, there are a lot of good technologies that help us, but the vast majorities are working on our convenience or entertainment. If you really think about critical aspects of our life, so are actually all physical. You have to still drive, you have to move, you need a force, you need to deliver, you need to move, you have to fabricate products essential for us. We need to eat, right? And if you think about the space on the left, let's say you have a fantastic app, it takes days to distribute to the world because of this amazing network. It doesn't work like that in the physical world. There's a lot of issues, but I'm going to introduce why the physical world is so slow and there's so much challenges, and then why we need to develop physical intelligence. That's the basically main focus of the talk. Is there's a lot of issues. I want to highlight the elderly care. I can think about all these aging population. Literally, we're going to run out of laborers. So I'm going to talk about why it's so important and then why it's so challenging. What are the mechanisms and the challenges? It's actually all in our brain. Before talking about the main topic, I want to briefly introduce our research in our lab. And of course, you have to think about mobility first to provide physical services. These are the robots I've been working on first 10 years of MIT. That's a Cheetah 2, it's probably the fastest robot ever built. We had to actually redesign electric motors and transmissions, everything, because the conventional robots are actually not designed to interact with the world. You see, they're like, oh, it's running, but if you think about every step, is impact. You have to deal with the impact and observe energy. And so we had to reinvent almost everything from scratch. So these are all robots developed in 2014, 15, before pandemic. And we show some pretty incredible, this 40-kilogram machine jumping off the table, which is unprecedented. But if you think about a cat can do this very easily. And we made a smaller version just to ease of experiment. During pandemic, my students actually check out, can I check out one robot and do the experiment in the home? So much safer and easier. And then it turns out that we don't need to redesign the software. Software can be just easily exported from the small system to the big system. So we really changed how we do experiment. This is the most recent machine. We ended up developing 10 of them in-house. Literally, these 10 robots are built in 2 tables, and then we distribute to the world. At this point, there are 13 mini Cheetahs outside of MIT, and then we're doing collaboration for research. So these are mostly locomotion, and I want you to really think about what it takes to develop a robot that can balance. So this is the main topic. It's very related to everything I show you, but they're also interconnected. So I'm going to just introduce you, like, what are the things we are actually having huge bias, and we see AI technology not in a straightforward way. Number one, we judge the performance of AI in human standard. I'll show you a couple of examples so that you can understand. You probably already have some experience like that. The reason why I do that is actually because we don't know what we're doing physically. I'll prove it to you. You don't know what you're doing. Physically only. And then number one, as a result, our language is stuck in the very high abstract level. I will explain that. I don't have time for number 4 because that's a huge another topic. Takes probably 2 hours to explain. So let's go. I can see that your eyes are going back and forth, but I see that all the eyes are on the left compared to the right. Right? Backflip is cool, right? Wow, that's pretty impressive. Right video, yeah, it works. I can tell you that took undergrad 3 days of work to make that happen. This one, our whole team designed 2 years. Your brain doesn't catch that in a short period of time if you don't know the background. I can tell you briefly, once you take off the ground, there's nothing to do. So as long as you push right, you're done. This one, you have to constantly adapt and then adjust your force to be able to stay in balance. Our brain is not really wired to perceive that kind of level because we're judging almost everything based on human level, human standard. I can't backflip, but my son can walk around no problem. If I'm 2, 3-year-old kid can do it. Many quadrupedal animal can run and walk full speed about an hour after their birth. But we don't think that's actually difficult and intelligent because everything we judge based on our bias, short thinking, very reflexive behavior, right, in our brain. These famous researchers, Rodney Brooks is still working on the AI technology, and those three people actually talk about this a long time ago, 1988. It's comparatively easy to make computers exhibit adult-level performance on intelligence tasks. Take a look at the language they're using. Or playing checkers, but very difficult or impossible to give them a skill of 1-year-old when it comes to perception or mobility. Even they were biased. They think playing checkers is intelligent behavior. Perception or cognition is not. I want you to look at this. We conquered chess world a long time ago. AlphaGo, 2017, 16. Now, so AlphaZero came out, completely wiped the floor. They called it God player. Nowadays, if you go to the Go game, they're checking if this person is cheating or not based on how closely you're playing close to AI or not. There's a mechanism to check that. But doing math, amazing. Writing is such a unique capability. Now it's about to get conquered by the AI. But whereas peanut butter jelly sandwich, I'll grab a key from the pocket. Did anybody says that they're intelligent? We have no technology you can do this at this point. Not a single thing. Amazon is still working on picking a product from the bin. My friend is actually working on it, so I know all the detail. What is intelligent? Are you guys biased? I will show you more examples. We don't have a complete understanding of what consists really intelligent, because what the area brain can perceive is so limiting. I will show you more example. Number 2, why? Why we're so biased? Because we don't know what we're doing. Everybody enjoyed the breakfast today, right? While talking with most of you, right? We mostly talking, eating, right? Have you ever thought about, ever since you were born, eating as a process? Your upper teeth are stuck in your skull, right? Your lower teeth are one piece. You don't have individual control over your teeth, right? Nobody has the muscle to control, right? It's gross, I know that, but Carol comes in, your front teeth nicely chopped off, lump come in. What happened after that? It's just somehow grounded and then go to your stomach, right? My molar is supposed to chop down, but molar cannot grab that in, right? What happened? Your tongue pushes back and then crump. Like your molars are not very smart, just crump, right? And then some pieces are big enough. I'm going to bring it small enough, swallow. Too big, I'm going to bring back to the molar again. Think about, and then find the piece of paper. Somehow you bring to your lips, as your hand can take out, right? Have you aware of any of these processes? Your chewing level is different depending on what you're chewing. While you're talking with your friend, talking about politics, economics, what do you use to talk? Use your tongue. A piece of lump in your mouth. Doing all this, can you imagine you build a mouth as big as about 2 meters wide and build a robot to take care of what tongue is doing? I don't know how many robots I need. You have to bring it and push it back and then jump down. Oh, I have to small, throw it, big, you have to push. Your tongue is doing all this with absolutely no conscious awareness. You guys have you anybody thought about this ever before? Oh, God, let me talk to you later. Most of physical actions are living in the on subconscious level. We are not aware of it. Our brains, conscious level brains, are not very aware of this. I'll ask you to, this is one of my video. I actually asked my student to pick. I'm going to pick this apple. Somebody says pear. I think it's apple. I think it's pear. And I just asked my student to take a video, slow motion. And then this is what happened. It crashed and then ended up pushing it. Happened to choose the worst possible choice. That apple is so much easier to pick. Somehow my finger stumble, change in action. But amazingly, that happens in 0.7 seconds. Individual action, pretty dumb. I didn't know that my arm is that dumb. But so reliable, if I do that 1,000 times, I will probably succeed 1,000 times. But happened in 0.7 seconds, making judgment very quickly. And I have no idea. I have been watching this, wow. I have absolutely oblivious. I will prove it to you. Anybody anything in your pocket? Just grab it and bring it out to you in front of you. Like if you thought about it, probably happened and somehow magically, like you're asking some of your team leaders. Anybody remember second joint of your index finger was doing. Anything. Joint trajectory of your second joint of your index finger. Anybody remember? Did you command that? We have absolutely no idea. Because there's a lower level, your cerebellum probably, or your spinal cord, taking care of all these details, and our conscious level brain is pretty much like a chairman or a president. I don't know, like somewhere the highest, oh, make a Solve conference, inviting 200 people, and make it happen next week. And you have no idea how many seats you have to bring it up here, how to contract AV and talk about detail. It's all automatic because it's hierarchically done. Our brain, I believe our brains are hierarchically done. But we are only aware of this high level, CEO level decision making. And absolutely no idea what's going on in the physical world. How can we even talk about this technology as we're using human language? That brings up to our next topic. Our languages are very, very, very abstract. How you teach your son or daughter making peanut butter jelly sandwich? What language do you use? Think about it. Grab a knife, spread the peanut butter, spread very well. Do I use any other words? I can't use any other word, but I don't have it. I'd run out of language, right? But imagine you're teaching an alien who somehow know how to speak English, but never seen peanut butter, never seen peanut butter jelly. Explaining the language is impossible. Just look at the definition of a spread. And we just don't have enough language to describe what's going on. I'm a roboticist, so I know how difficult this is in robot. I can't just specify trajectory because it might push too hard or not even touching it, right? How about specifying force? Or how about the peanut butter is hard or soft, where the butter, the bread is actually can crumble? I can't squeeze. There's so many things we have to think about, but we just done it by just showing it because we have a mirror neuron. You can look it up, mirror neuron. I don't have time to talk about this, but we don't have the technology. We don't even have the language to describe it. I can't write a paper about our physical intelligence because I don't have a language. So we are actually working on this subsidiary, like the intermediary language, to communicate our language, human language, to the robot language. Robot can only understand position, angle, forces, cannot understand grasp or peeling an apple. So that's we call the sticky reflex. That's our language. I have to create a language so that I can communicate. And I actually have a demo. You can actually play with it whenever after my talk. Just a challenge for you. You saw something cool today during the solve. Can you describe this to your son on the phone? How do you describe this? We can't. Because our language is lack of resolution, so abstract that we can describe it. So we have to create it. Another language, we call that is a glide reflex. How are we going to describe this in human language? Good luck, ChatGPT, solving this problem. Combining all these reflex, we can do something much, much better. This is still baby step. We've only been working on this 2 years. We're going to eventually do much more. Look at the speed. This is real time. It's not sped up. We can achieve like human level manipulation and grasping behavior because we can rely on this intermediary reflexes and languages so that we can actually understand what robot is doing, or we can actually ask what robot to do. Societal challenge. I mean, eventually, I'm going to tackle this. In Korea, South Korea, I'm from South Korea originally. In 2050, over 40% of population will be over 65. Similar thing happened in Japan. China is already happening too. In US, it's relatively okay because a lot of immigration comes in, but every country, the demographic is going into very, very dangerous situation. All this IT technology, a virtual technology, can make us life more convenient, maybe, and then sometimes beyond convenience. This is must-have technology. We might have a social crisis if you don't actually tackle this growing elderly population. Language, we already have it. We can talk to my grandmother. I can help. We need to be able to provide services like this. If you look at how much delicacy it happen. And I'll finish with this quote. It's my favorite quote. I actually showed to my students to really remember. Oscar Wilde talked about imagination. Imitate, really distinguish from the creativity. Imitation is not creativity. And AI really just imitate us just from the data, really don't know how to critically think about for our society. So that we keep us in mind and then think about what technology we should focus on. Thank you very much.
Please welcome solver Vanessa Castaneda Gill, CEO, Social Cipher, and solver Sanskriti Dovle, CEO, Thinkerbell Labs, and moderator Eliza Berg, lead, Learning and SolveEd Communities, MIT Solve.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Great, great. Well, I am joined by two wonderful solver teams here, Sanskriti and Vanessa, who are part of our Re-Engaging Learners cohort. And they're working on including learners in really, really important ways in their work. So let's jump right in. Vanessa is designing video games for neurodivergent youth, and Sanskriti by helping more people to become Braille literate. So over the past year, I would love to just start and hear from you both. What has the growth and success of your organizations meant for the communities that you work with? And also just tell us, what have you been up to? We'll start with Sanskriti.
Right. Thanks, Eliza. I'd like to share an anecdote. So I've been working in the field of Braille literacy and specifically building technology to make that more scalable and accessible for about a decade now, been more than 9 years. And every time I pass through airport security, whatever prototype I'm carrying is always flagged saying, okay, hey, what is this? What are you carrying? Why does it have a pointy stylus with it, etc. And that's basically been almost my entire adult life. And now, last year when we came on Shark Tank India, my entire team, whenever we fly anywhere in India, the airport security recognizes our product before we don't even have to explain anything. And that kind of awareness around assistive technology, around the kind of potential that having the right foundational literacy and numeracy can unlock, mainstreaming those conversations at regular families' dining tables. I think that's the biggest change that I've seen happen in the past 1 year in terms of mainstreaming those conversations. What does it mean, for somebody to be Braille literate? What does it mean for them? I think a lot more stories are coming up of how our students are using the technology and the stories told in their words. So having that be a part of our collective mainstream consciousness is a huge, huge step towards changing perceptions. Yeah.
Great. And Vanessa.
Yeah. So also starting with a little bit of an anecdote. Also, hi, I'm excited to be here. I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD when I was 14, and I had a lot of difficulty with the stereotypes and went through a lot of mental health issues. Number one, just because I didn't have many resources in understanding my diagnosis, and on top of that, there just really wasn't representation that I fit into. And so really what I set out to do with my team in making Social Cipher was giving youth this safe, judgment-free zone to understand social interactions in their own way and to be able to embrace their identities and ultimately to make what I would have needed at that age, at that 10 to 15 age range. And I think we've been doing that, which has been exciting. I mean, we've grown to over 220 schools and therapy centers in 6 countries now. We've been able to, partner with the Lego Foundation, which has been just unreal. And I think the coolest part is that I am constantly able to see these neurodivergent youth lighting up when they see our main character, Ava, who's autistic, deal with the same challenges or think the same way that they do. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's me. We even have students that are replacing their name with Ava's because they just resonate so closely. And I think the other cool thing is that neurotypical youth and teachers are learning so much more about neurodiversity and able to create much stronger bonds and relationships and build that trust.
Awesome. Thank you both. So also another question for you, Vanessa, going off of that, can you tell us a little bit about how you have worked with neurodivergent youth to design this game, and particularly around the social emotional learning component of it as well?
Most definitely. So with our neurodivergent youth, really, it starts from the very beginning. When we're an episodic series, and each of our game episodes focuses on a different social emotional theme, from trying new things to trust. And it's all of our social emotional themes are based on our community. We really just go out and ask neurodivergent youth, like, what's the hardest thing for you to learn? We ask their teachers, we ask their parents, and we ask neurodivergent adults as well, just what help they need. And it really starts there. And then, of course, the play testing process is very extensive. We're constantly testing with hundreds of neurodiverse youth and just really trying to understand from their expertise and lived experience what they need.
Awesome. And similar question for you, Sanskriti. Tell us a little bit about the design process and any sort of redesign that needs to go into working across different languages and different contexts. And you just launched in the United States, which is great. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that and how it works.
Well, Braille is a script. So just like English and French and German, they all have pretty much the same Roman script. And so if you learn how to read ABC, you'll be able to recognize the characters in French, even if you can't read French. So similarly, Braille has 6 dots, sometimes 8 dots per character. And every country and every language has their own Braille code. So we have different content localization, but that is translation plus contextualization. So in English, for example, I'd say A for apple. But in Hindi, you don't say sir, say sab. You don't use the exact same object. You don't draw on the same structure to build up your idea of the alphabet. So a lot of those things also we work with local experts. In the US, we've partnered with American Printing House, which is a 150-year-old organization based in Kentucky. And this is what they do. They work with children and teachers all over the country to deliver the best educational aids. So our US variant, Polly, has actually, it has US accent English, first of all. Then it has phonics in terms of how to teach the actual alphabet. Then there are, I think, Jack Hartman audio songs, which I'm told are very, very popular in the US. And in fact, the US redesigned, the contextualization has turned out to be such a huge success that our first batch of 400 has been sold out in just last 1 week. So there is a lot of contextualization that goes for that.
That's awesome. Final question, because time is flying by. What advice do you have for aspiring social innovators, and your peers that are here today, that you would leave for everyone before we close? Maybe start with Vanessa.
Yeah, I can start. I think the biggest thing is to start with lived experience. Make sure you have it on your team, you have it in yourself, and that you are constantly talking to your community. I think including the voices of lived experience and of those that you hope to serve or that you are serving is absolutely crucial, whether that's in testimonial surveys, having folks come in and vouch for you. I think that you can't build a successful product without having those folks that are experiencing the challenges of the community you're trying to serve. So that's always my thing.
All right. I'd just like to say, don't hold back from dreaming big. I think that's been my one takeaway after spending this week with solver teams from all around the world. The world is changing. We are changing it, and so there's no dream too big for anyone who's looking at even applying, because if you get in, you'll get all of this help and support that I'm sure everyone's gone through, but most importantly, the community of like-minded folks that are just as passionate and crazy to some extent to work on the things that they're fired up by. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, I want to thank you both so much. And I also want to put it out there for everyone who's either watching at home or wherever you are and in the audience to get to know you two better if you haven't already, and also check out the Re-Engaging Learners Challenge cohort. They're really incredible solver teams that are working to support learners all around the globe. And we're so, so excited to have them as a part of our community. And thank you both. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And now please welcome impact artist Ada Murad.
Hello. Let's just take a moment. You guys have been sitting for a while, so maybe let's just breathe. Let's just take one breath together. And out. Let's do one more. Breathe in. And out. So I want you to look around and just pick one person that you don't know. Don't get up unless you want to. And log them in your mind, because after they're going to be your partner, or try to find them, so we're going to do a little painting thing later on. So just look around, find a stranger in your mind. Okay, beautiful. So how many of you here have experienced a trauma before? Just raise your hand if you can. I'm sure more than... Well, I'm about to tell you a story, my story, of how I experienced the worst thing in my life that actually turned into the best thing in my life. So I was a senior at George Washington University and was super A-type. I worked 40 hours a week, studied 40 hours a week, and also wanted to fit into every social circle possible. And I thought sleep was for the weak. I genuinely hated sleeping. I thought it was not productive, and I lost time. Little did I know sleep is holy. Fast forward, I ended up burning myself out. And I kept saying, I need a break, I need a break, I need a break. And then I willed it into existence. I got my break, not in the form that I wanted. I remember the specific day I woke up, and I had this ritual of going to my kitchen and drinking from this mug made in Jordan, where I'm from, because it just made me feel, I was in DC at the time, it made me feel I was closer to home. And it had blues and reds on it. And I picked up the mug, and then I dropped it. And it broke. Okay, weird. I take the other one, also broke. And then by the third one, I just knew something was wrong. Within 48 hours, I lost full control of my body. I no longer could walk, move, or move my neck left or right without extreme pain. So I ended up being semi-paralyzed for about 4.5 years due to severe arthritis. And I was very young for that. So I went to countless doctors. They said, there's no real solution for you. I ended up dropping out of college. I graduated, but with something easier. I lost all my friends because I was so ashamed. Like, I was the strong, outgoing girl. How can I now just be so dependent? And then I didn't tell my family the severity of my condition, so I ended up selling everything I owned so I can pay for the doctor bills. And after this went on for a bit longer, I ended up giving up hope. And for those who know me, I'm a pretty optimistic person. But I wasn't then. And I decided I want to end my life. So in the day I was strategizing how to do that, whether you believe in angels or not, an angel appeared for me and told me, Aida, it's not your time. I said, well, I can't continue living this way, so I need to walk again. Long story short, she showed me the power of my thoughts, my words, my actions. And I don't know how to describe it other than I had a deep knowing that I was healed. It was beyond belief, it was a knowing. And then my healing journey is beautifully summarized by this quote of, when the student is ready, the master appears. So my masters in my healing journey appeared for me. And thankfully, I was healed. So I moved back to Jordan. I worked for the Jordanian government, tech founder for this social enterprise, beautiful couple of years. And then I moved back to DC. And I want to continue my career in international development. Somehow, arthritis, my old friend, comes back and comes even more aggressive, to the point where my bones started eroding. So I remember this day very clearly. I get a call from the doctor. He tells me, Aida, at the rate your body is eroding, your bones are eroding, your hands and your feet won't be functional for very long. So you'll likely never use your hands or walk easily. Like, dang it. And then, I love saying shucks, actually. And then the same day, I had a job interview. And the interviewer asked me, why should we hire you? And I said, I have no idea. And because I genuinely had no idea what was special about me. So then I go home and I remember, like, Aida, you have a unique fingerprint. So, okay, if you have this unique fingerprint, when was the last time you connected with your unique fingerprint? Curious if someone can shout it out. Anyone in this past month? No, your unique fingerprint. Because whenever you doubt whether you're special or not, or you have something unique to offer, just go back to your unique fingerprint. That's an easy start. So I remembered I had this unique fingerprint, and I said, okay, maybe if I keep painting over and over again, I will unlock or remember the answer is, why am I still here? What is special about me? And the funny thing is I found it. It was art. I became an artist. And I started developing this technique. Well, at the time, I couldn't actually hold a paintbrush, so I painted everything with my fingers or front of my hands, etc. Got creative in how I can create, though not being able to move easily. And then it expanded into art exhibitions with storytelling, and then I developed unique technique of painting with my eyes closed. And then if you come to my studio and watch me paint, I'll have 7 to 13 paintings all around me, and I'm painting them all at the same time. So I just am in the flow rather than trying to think of productivity. And this is my first painting I made when I started recovering. And took about a year to make, where I was thinking about recovery and rebuilding ourselves. And it happens one moment at a time, one dot at a time, one move at a time, one thought at a time. So fast forward, people started coming to me and saying, Aida, like, I feel seen through your work. I want to understand how you create so I can do the same, not to be an artist, or maybe to be an artist, but to go through that own journey of healing. So now I asked, at the time, my mission was to help people unlock their potential. Then it shifted to helping people feel seen, heard, and loved. Because at the end of the day, that's what we all truly crave. And I think about unlocking potential. I can't do that for you if you don't see yourself, if you don't hear yourself and love yourself. So this session is all about connected society, right? But you can't be in a connected society if you're not connected to yourself first. And then even how do we become a connected society? There's so many ways we need to go deeper. So I realized as I worked with more people, to actually get someone to be connected to themselves, we need to embrace the spectrum of them, of healing to innovation, right? Self-innovation, to survival, to thriving. Because in a single day, we can actually experience that spectrum, and we don't talk enough about it. So what I started doing is getting people, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what I've done, and my goal from this talk is actually to leave you with a question of how can you invite art into your work? Because we're all here in the space of leaving the world a little bit better. And I know art has a role to play in each of your lives. So this picture, I get people to come paint with their bodies. My only rule is no paintbrushes. Then we throw out the rest of the rules. And why with your body? Because your body keeps the score for whoever has read that book. It has wisdom, it has data, it contains memories of your past, as well as, I believe, your ancestors. So when you paint with your body, you access a whole new level of things that are stored. And when you release what is no longer conducive to you, can you make space for what is? The other part is, it's a space where people can be messy and playful. Like, how many spaces do we have today where we can be truly messy and not worry about the outcome? Very few spaces. And then I help people connect with joy again. Because without joy, we become half human. We can't show up fully. So when I think about impact, I need to remind people of joy and making sure your cup is full. So this is another thing that I do is, so this is Sandy, and she's a cancer patient. I'm the artist in residence at Georgetown University Cancer Center. And so I've spent a lot of time in hospitals, and I in my healing journey, there wasn't anything beautiful around me to remind me about where I wanted to go. So I turned to music. So what I do now at healing spaces is insert art that reminds people of how they want to feel, which is hopeful, inspired, empowered. And on the other end of the spectrum is I work with engineers who remind them that everything around you, your environment, what you wear, what you place on the wall, has an impact on how you show up. Nothing is neutral. So I'm trying to remind people to question, what do you have around you? Does it open you up? Does it close you up? Does it inspire you? And if it does nothing to you, then let's have a question and conversation about that. Then this painting, so the third thing I do is taking ownership of the narrative around me. So during COVID, at the start of the pandemic, the doctor told me, if you get COVID, you'll likely pass away in 48 hours. I'm like, oh, dang it, again. So I, of course, didn't leave my apartment in New York, my one bedroom, and I was letting fear take over my body. And then I said, oh, no. I've been through so much already in life for such a young age. I'm like, I no, refuse. So I started painting what I wanted to feel in the world, what I wanted to see in the world. And I came up with Mind of Magic. And that really helped with my mental health to every day, instead of hearing the news and listening to the pain and the trauma, to actually look at what I wanted to feel, my North Star, which was to feel a bit magical. So now we go to my favorite question of what if life could be better than you ever imagined it to be? I'm going to repeat that question. What if life could be better than you ever imagined it to be? Now that's a muscle you train. And it's talking about what could be possible. So the ways I'm trying to explore that question right now is through nature. Like, this is a session on technology, and I want to remind us that actually nature, I believe nature is our highest technology. And one example that I'm portraying through art now, because art has the power to cut through a lot of noise and speak to people's hearts, right? Is trees. If we were all trees, and me and what's your name? Mackenzie needed nourishment. We would all sense that. And through the root system, we will send nourishment to Mackenzie and to myself. That is mind-blowing. And I think even when I talk to people, I can see we're not fully absorbing it. But then I question, how can we as a society build societies and communities like that, like trees who support each other in the root system? Then this other thing is I'm building spaces where people can take a break and dream. Because if we don't have spaces to dream, then we can't really create a better future. We're just going to be stuck in the rat race. So I invite you to ask this question and welcome art to support you, so we can be a better connected society, right? But again, first to ourselves and then to others. So that's what I have for you. And what we're going to do, I'm going to have two people paint with me today on stage, and then we're going to go outside and co-create a canvas. So one thing I always remind people is we live on one single canvas, actually. We have one planet. We are living on it. And it's so easy to think that you have your own canvas, you have your own canvas, and I have my own, where we're separate. There's no such thing. So there's something so simple and powerful of a single canvas, and this is where we live. What are we creating? And are you adding your unique fingerprint to it or not? Thank you. So, thank you. Who would like to volunteer? I'd like just two people to come up and paint. Lovely. We'll pick one person. No, someone who hasn't been on stage, ideally. Ruma? Beautiful. Someone else? Beautiful. So we're all going to take this canvas outside, and you're going to paint with your fingers and with your eyes closed as well. And we're going to do this experiment of having us trust each other in a more deeper way. So first, I want you both to connect with the colors that speak to you. So come here, just pick a color. From here, and then you have the heavy body colors, and then you have the lighter colors. So just pick whatever speaks to you, don't overthink it. The art is, so this is the other part, is we're so good here. And we've most of us, to generalize, have not fostered listening to our intuition. So yeah, try to, beautiful. So what does blue represent to you?
Peace, possibilities.
Beautiful. And for you, what did you pick?
I can pick red.
Okay, you've picked red. And why red?
I believe it spreads love, and that's why all of us are here, and that binds us together.
Beautiful. So just, can I be messy on you?
Yeah.
Yay. Now I just want you to feel it, connect with your body, connect with your heart, connect with whatever you're craving in the world and whatever you want to give to the world. It's a lot to think and embody, but you're really in tune with yourself.
Yeah.
So just feel it and spread wherever you want to spread.
Okay.
And now with your eyes closed, and move somewhere that you haven't touched before. Beautiful. Don't go anywhere. Okay. We're going to go to you. Akshita. Beautiful, lovely name. Okay. So for you, I'm actually going to be a bit more gentler. One hand. And connect with, what does your heart want to say to the world? And do that primarily with your eyes closed and just feel, where do you want to place it? If there's a country in mind, you can think of that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful, thank you. And then I'm going to have you both, I've actually never done this part before. So you're going to be her artist. And you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to completely surrender and trust her to paint through you. So if you can, so this is your paintbrush, basically. And feel her energy. And take control here, or however you would like.
And you want me to keep my eyes closed?
Yes.
Okay.
Complete surrender and trusting that your fellow solver is going to paint for you in a beautiful way. And notice in your body, Ruma, is there any tension going? Where do you feel uncomfortable in surrendering? And now open your eyes, and you're still going to paint for her, but I want you now to guide her. And there's very subtle shifts in trust, in power, in co-creation. And we can stop there. Okay. So I have wet wipes for you. So I'm curious, what came up for you before? And we're going to take this outside so you can all paint. And again, find someone that you don't know. How did you feel? How did your body feel? How did your heart feel? Guys, look at this beautiful thing. Like even with... Oh, don't wash it. Sorry. Do you want to wash it? You're going to... Okay, beautiful. I love these. Okay, I picked the right people. How did it feel? What came up for you?
It was really positive. I could feel the energy, my own energy, and like both of your energies mixing with me, and like a lot of trust, a lot of being together. So I could feel that power of trusting in each other, feeling each other's energy. And it was really a positive feeling.
Beautiful. What about you? What came up when you painted by yourself and then let her paint for you?
So the paint itself was, the temperature is cool. So I thought that actually set the kind of the tone and the energy for me. And yeah, I wasn't expecting to close my eyes and being guided. So yeah, like you said, it was like a sense of just giving up control and going up with the flow, going with the flow. So it was fun.
I can't wait to have you outside and paint. We're going to have now Hella come up and paint with us, but you guys can come back outside. Thank you so much for painting with us.
Yeah.
To our artists.
I don't know, everybody.
And now we're going to have you paint.
Oh my goodness.
Just so, I love talking about the butterfly effect. And you know how we briefly mentioned that there's no individual canvas, it is one community canvas that we all live on. And what you do in your life has butterfly effects that you will never comprehend, nor experience, nor see. So being here at MIT Solve, you have butterfly effects, hopefully in the impact community that you'll never see. So love for you to connect with your purpose. You can say it out loud or not, but pick the color that speaks to you. I'm already sensing a few colors that you should pick, but...
So much pressure. I'm gonna pick this one.
Oh, that's the color that I thought. Yay. I swear, no joke.
I heard you. Reads through souls.
Exactly. Everything's energy, guys.
Do I have to pick more than one?
It's up to you. I'm trying to find an orange one too, but if not, then we're good. I don't think I have an orange one. Shucks.
Maybe outside. That's okay.
Okay. So, oh, actually, this is where we create art and we create our own colors. So let's start with you. You picked this color. So just either you want to say out loud your purpose or you can embody it and just start with your, however you feel like you feel called to paint. And listen to your body. And it's interesting for you, I'm sensing a lot of your back wants to paint with you. Meaning you don't have to.
That's gonna be too messy.
No, but like energetically, the thing is like we are energetic beings. So connect with the energy of your back as well and invite it to send whatever message through your hands.
I mean, it's hard to think of anything else right now than everyone who's behind me. You know, this community right here and the ripple effects that we're creating. And I think all of us are in the business of planting trees, talking of trees, the shades under which we may never sit, but we're doing it for those who come after us and in the honor of those who came before us. So this feels like a very fitting way to end this. Thank you, Aida.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all. And come paint after.
That was not a good idea.
Can I add mine?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Oh no, I got it here. Okay.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. I can't wait to paint with everyone. And actually, the piece that we're going to co-create together will remain with us as a community. We made it. Over the past 3 days, we've explored how we leverage our collective power to harness technology for positive outcomes. We've discussed the future of climate and the path and the players to net zero. We've debated the good, the bad, the aspirational when it comes to AI. We've been inspired by the work of artists that are using their talent to move us to action. And what was even more remarkable was the breakout sessions and just seeing the community come together, connect dots, and offer introductions and connections and resources. And today, this morning, we created a future together. We started thinking about what it is for next year's global challenges. What could their ripple effect be outside in the world? So we're at the tail end of it all, and I do have one request for you. We'll take 1 minute to do it together, and then you'll hear music when the minute is over. So I want to ask you to turn to your neighbor and finish the sentence for each other. What I found most remarkable or memorable was. Go for it. 1 minute. Okay, time is up. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Well, we started here together this week. We want to make sure we follow up on it. Make that introduction, send that email, create this connection. Let's hold each other accountable to the energy that we had in these rooms the past few days to make sure it doesn't end here. And of course, we want you to stay involved in our work. You can apply to our 2023 challenges. Here they are, deadline May 9th. You can still sponsor a prize for 2023, or you can support our work overall. Solve is a platform, so we constantly actually have challenges that are open for application. So actually, you sum it up, we have 2.5 million in prize funding available on the platform right now for entrepreneurs around the world. And of course, we would love to see all of you with us at Solve Challenge Finals on September 18th in New York City, where you get to meet, I see people putting it in their calendar, yes, where you get to meet the 2023 Solver class. Okay, on to the thank yous. That's really important. First, of course, to all of you sitting here, a heartfelt thank you for taking part in these important conversations, for putting yourself out there, whether here on stage or in the audience or in those rooms, for offering to help. For our fearless Solver teams and fellows, a massive round of applause. Thank you to our Solve sponsors, members, supporters. We truly can't do this work without you. And just to give you a sense of the richness in this community, I want to thank a couple of people. Carla Garcia-Turrell of Growth Empowered. She's been coaching. This is her 4th year coaching Solver class. Thank you to all of our supporters, some of whom invest literally in our Solver teams. I actually just heard that Johnson & Johnson did a 50,000 prize, which allowed Solver Spitar to expand their scope in Sudan at a time where it couldn't be more needed. I want to thank the entire MIT community, faculty, students, staff who support us year-round, and of course, President Kornbluth for joining us and for her supporting our mission. And also Brian Brownchild, I don't know if he's in the room, but he's making a donation every month, and we love to see that continuous engagement. A massive thank you and a round of applause for the incredible Solve staff. You make coming to work a joy. Thank you. And this community, this global network of problem solvers that we all are together, we are the supermind. Our job is to will the future that we want into existence. And collectively, there's nothing we can't do. I really believe it. It's been so fun being with you. We'll see you at the reception with Aida painting, and our very own Sega Jen will be spinning some tunes. So, see you there. Thank you.